You're listening to the Creepy Kingdom Podcast Network,
covering and creating all things creepy.
Visit creepykingdom.com to get access to all of our articles, videos, and podcasts. Join our Patreon for exclusive content. Patreon.com/creepykingdom. Now it is time to open up the gates. Creepy Kingdom proudly presents The Dark Theme Park Show.
All right, welcome yourself to a emergency episode. I don't really know why it's emergency, the episode itself, but breaking news. We had to get together and discuss this crazy news that has impacted our little creepy world, as well as the world for all of us.
We need a little thing with a little do. This is breaking news. This is a broadcast of the Emergency Creepy Kingdom system.
So when you're done with your tacos, you can go record that and send it over.
There we go. This is an emergency.
Like a tornado siren or something.
Yes.
Yes. So we don't want to alarm everybody. We don't need the war sirens going off yet. But before we continue, let me announce our panel here. We've got the evil queen of the Creepy Kingdom, Miss Roxy Tart.
I think they figured that out already.
Maybe. Your newswoman voice was so convincing, they might not have known it was you. And we have Sir Florida Man himself, Grant.
Hey, everybody.
And,
Florida Man.
I guess by default, we also have Florida Woman joining us.
That's awesome.
We've got Brittany, who will be our medical expert, since this is a professional news panel here. We had to bring in a medical expert.
Wait, so she should get one too. Hold on.
What's her title?
Florida Woman.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
There's a little Wonder Woman theme song in there.
Yeah.
I like it. And we could use Wonder Woman at a time like this because normally, obviously, we don't discuss, the horrors of the real world on our shows. But this is something that has taken it over. We like to use the things that we discuss on the show, whether it be this show, any other podcast we do, movies, theme parks, haunts, definitely escape from reality. But that escape is being taken away, and because it was announced as of the day of this recording that all the major theme parks in the United States of America will be closing for 2 weeks. An unprecedented thing that no one could have predicted. It started.
Reality came up to our castle and closed the drawbridge.
It was like, nope. You're not coming in there.
The weirdest thing with this one is that this is going to be the podcast that if you're like going back in time and listening to these in the future, this is going to be the most outdated podcast because things are changing hour by hour.
Right.
Like when you listen to this show, today it's March 11th or 12th.
The 12th. We're the 12th right now.
And if this is released, whenever this is released, even if it's in a couple of days, this could be totally changed. That's how quickly things are moving.
Yeah, I mean, we got the news about Disneyland today, which was quite the bombshell. You figured that I figured it would be a day-by-day basis or something, but they're just like, 2 weeks. So it's like, geez. And then we're just and then shortly thereafter, Universal Hollywood followed suit. And then we're like, okay, this is a California thing, but nope. Walt Disney World, and then Universal Orlando. All within hours, announced it.
And then the cruise line too.
The cruise line. Well, that should have been the first one to shut down because those cruises are germ factories.
And also, Disneyland Paris announced that today too. So as of right now, as of in a few days from now, there will be no Disneys open in the world with the exception of Aulani,
which is a resort but not insane. A theme park. But nowhere you. Wow. So Grant, give us a little more background on the closures of the other parks, like when those went down.
Shanghai went down in the middle of January, I believe.
Yeah.
And they have actually started a phased reopening where they just reopened their version of Downtown Disney, but the park isn't open yet, and they're slowly going to reopen the hotels. But, it's hard to kind of gauge what's actually going on in China right now because all the information is kind of... It's the same as over here where you're not fully getting the full story as to what's going on. Shortly after that, Hong Kong closed down. And these parks, that doesn't have an opening date yet. Now, Tokyo, they announced about a week ago that they were closing down... about 2 weeks ago that they were closing down. They were supposed to reopen on March 16th, and then same with the Universal over in Japan. And they were just told that they have to stay closed by order of the Japanese government until the beginning of April. So these Asian parks are being closed for a month or more. So by the time, let's say, Shanghai Disney decides to open up when Tokyo and Shanghai and Hong Kong decide to open up with Tokyo, those parks will have been closed for 2.5 months, which is insane if you think about it.
Right?
Wow. 2.5 months then, and Disneyland Paris is about to do it along with the U.S. parks, the same timeline.
They're doing the 2 weeks, but here's the thing. I don't know how much I trust the April 1st or the beginning of April date because as we saw with Tokyo was only supposed to be closed for 2 weeks, and then they just got another 2 weeks added to their sentence. So this is one of those things that this is a really unusual situation to be watching because things are changing hour by hour pretty much, as I was saying. So it's kind of like everything could be fine in 2 weeks, or it could be said this could get a lot worse and say, okay, well now we're opening up in the beginning of May now.
So I'm seeing the governor of Florida is recommending no large gatherings for 30 days. I would not be surprised if the theme parks adhere to that 30-day guideline as well. Most medical facilities are enacting a 30-day no visitor policy. So I'm thinking my completely uneducated random guess is it'll be 30 days.
And Brittany, for those who don't know, because I don't think we've ever discussed it, she is a social worker for a hospice. So she has a medical background and works in the facilities.
Yeah, I am going in every day into the most vulnerable population, the nursing homes of Florida. So I'm seeing the chaos and panic from a completely different perspective, where we have to make a special plea to allow family members in to see dying relatives. So we've come to that point on the medical side, which is scary. So the fact that they're closing the theme parks, even though Disney World itself has not had anyone known to have COVID-19, but their fire department does. The Reedy Creek Fire Department had, I think, 6 firemen in quarantine right now.
Really?
Well, Disneyland hasn't had me either.
Right. The firemen went to a convention or a training seminar or something like that where they were exposed to the virus. Whoops. So, but I mean, as a preventative measure, it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, Florida is such a tourist destination, and our county goes into spring break tomorrow. And the Miami area goes the week after that. So this would have been a very busy month to, for the parks in general, but I guess stopping the parks from being open probably is going to stop some of the spread in this area. I hope this isn't in vain.
Yeah, I guess I think we're all kind of general consensus here that this is the right thing to do. I don't think anyone's really challenging that, right?
I don't think they don't want to be seen as like, well, we're above the government and the recommendations just because we're a household name.
Well, and who wants to be the person that, like, didn't cancel their event or close their park or whatever? Who wants to be the person in charge of that when half of the people that go to whatever event or it is end up sick?
Right.
Nobody wants that responsibility.
Well, and the biggest problem, one of the big problems here is people. I mean, there's a big difference between California and Florida, which is California has so many locals and people are like, well, crap, I can't go to Disney on the weekend. But Florida, people save up for this for sometimes over a year just to be able to go and to have this kind of pulled out on them. There's a lot. You guys are, at least I know James has been to Florida. That it's not the same as going to Disneyland. You have to plan your fast passes. You have to plan your hotel. You have to kind of figure out your dining reservations. It's almost an Olympic event to do this. And I'm really not joking with that, though. It's like I have a coworker who went to Magic Kingdom for the first time a week ago, and she was talking about she had never been. She's like, oh, well, I'm just going to go to my car in the middle of the day, and I'm going to kind of sit there, and we're going to have lunch there. I said, no, you're not. You have to go and get on a tram, and then you have to cross either take the monorail or take the boat. People don't know, and they live out here. And so that's how difficult this is. And she was so confused. So, I mean, the travel plans that are being interrupted by this thing, I do agree that it needs to happen, but I really feel for anybody who is, basically affected by this.
I feel bad for people who plan vacations and whatnot, but, like, suck it up. I know that sounds really insensitive, but there's so much going on that, like, I saw a post on Facebook right before we got on here. And the person who posted was like, I don't understand why Disneyland would close. This is just the media trying to scare us. If any of the concerts I have tickets to get canceled, I'm going to be really pissed off. And then the comments were like, oh, yeah, I'm not sick. I don't understand what everybody's, like, on about and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you people have no clue why this is happening or how this is going on. It sounds so selfish. It's just like, do your research and understand what is actually going on and the reason why these things are getting canceled, and stop thinking about yourself and think about maybe other people in the rest of the world
as well. Like people that such as us who maybe have healthy immune systems, we may not be affected by it. We could any of the four of us could very well have it and not realize it and then pass that on to somebody else.
Yeah. James and I both live with people who are immunocompromised. His girlfriend Shannon and my husband Keegan both have serious immune system problems. And, like, it's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Well, to bring it back to the theme park issue, I think... talk about people having to cancel vacations or be seriously affected by them. I think we'll find out as the days go on that Disney and Universal is going to be accommodating with that as far as transferring to a different time or something. I would be really surprised if they just say, oh well, it's too bad, like South by Southwest did to all the people that were supposed to go to that convention. They just said, sorry, no refunds.
The other cool thing in Disney's announcement this morning was they did announce that they were still going to pay their employees for the 2 weeks that they'll be closed. And I think that that's really cool, and that it shows a level care and responsibility and whatnot. It's like, we have to do this, but we're still going to try to make it as okay as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, well, I'm not sure if they did it out of the kindness of their hearts or not, but that certainly would have been a devastating blow. I do want to bring up one thought I had, which takes away from your sweet sentiment.
Sorry.
Was that I'm sure they're still going to be charging for our annual pass payments this month. So at least we know that money's going to the cast members.
I had this discussion with somebody earlier, and I'm okay with it. Somebody's like, well, I hope they're going to credit us for, the 2 weeks we can't go. And I'm like, I'm okay with it. If paying for my pass for 2 weeks and not being able to go means that it helps somebody who works there get paid, I'm good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's when I put it all together. I was saying, like, I didn't mind it either, because I was saying, like, I don't know if that's how it works or not, but I was just saying if it's keeping the cast members and having to be able to put food on their table, it's not a big deal. And so I agree.
Like Frozen 3 or something like that, and boom, we'll just print the money again.
In the 3 Asian parks, they were informed at the closing date that for however many days the park is closed, annual passes will extend that many days. Oh. So if they're closed for 2 months, your pass is extended 2 months. I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm going to assume Paris and the American parks will follow suit with that.
See how informed these guys are? I was telling Roxy before we recorded.
I know, right?
It's like, if anyone knows what's going on about the overseas parks, it's these two. I would have never known that.
Like, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. And let's say they decided that, because for all we know over here, they're only closed for 2 weeks, but they could be closed for longer if something worse happens. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate right now and say, let's say they decided not to pay these people. People need to be able to work to live. When parks come back online, if you've lost half of your people because you haven't paid them, you're going to be scrambling and you're not going to be getting good people. And then what are you going to do? Do like a 15-minute version of traditions and say, hey, this is how you operate this ride. You have to keep quality people at the park working.
The bottom line is that so many reasons, from that reason to like just a PR reason to actually being good to other human beings reason, like there was so many reasons to keep paying their employees.
Oh yeah.
The worst thing they could have done was been like, get out. They'd have been crucified.
Right. On top of the fact that the theme parks, especially the Disney ones, have record profits. Like it's this closure probably is not even gonna affect the profit margin. I'm joking. I'm sure it will somewhat. But instead of $100 million, they're gonna make $99 million.
I have a question. I don't know if any of the three of you would know this, and I didn't look it up to see online. But we know the parks are closed, and we know that a lot of like the employees won't be going in, ride operators and stuff like that. But what about like third shift, mechanical, janitorial?
I do know a little bit of that.
Okay.
I have a friend who works in a Disney resort, and they are going to a skeleton crew because they have people who are there. As a lot of airlines have cut back their flights, some people can't just rebook a flight home because the flight might only be on certain days, or planes have been combined, so there's no empty seats. Food places, Disney Springs, are still running because they're third party. Some of the food options within the resorts have to stay open. Obviously, they have to have housekeeping in place. They have to have maintenance in place. They have to keep everything sterilized. So there is still a skeletal crew running at every resort.
But what about in the park?
You still have to do a level of maintenance to things. Like, think about like a water attraction, stuff like that. You still have to have that there. What my thinking is, okay, so we're gonna switch this conversation back to Tokyo for just a moment. Okay. And let's also while we're talking about Tokyo, let's talk about Hong Kong as well, because these both are kind of like part of the same coin right here. Hong Kong is doing a major castle refurbishment, and Tokyo Disney initially was supposed to open a Beauty and the Beast dark ride that was supposed to be like 8 minutes long on April 15th. That has now been bumped over till May. Now, these things are nearing the end of the construction process. So what's going to what's having to happen with this, they still have to get these things done. So you may not have necessarily a ton of the janitorial staff there, but you're at least going to have the ride mechanics or people who are doing, the paint and the final touches and the gardening for these attractions done. They still have to get that castle open. And I know that they're working on a Frozen Land over in Hong Kong. I'm sure that the people are still going back there and working on it because there are still deadlines that have to be made. If anything, it may make their life a little easier because they could just go through the front gate or however they need to and not have to be hiding behind giant walls. It may expedite the process.
Well, yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. If they are keeping people on, obviously the first concern is safety for for all your employees and whatnot. But if they are keeping people on and it's, the parks are closed for 2 weeks or more, does that mean that things that are under construction and under refurbishment right now might get done sooner? Here we've got Avengers Campus, we've got Snow White down, we've got
Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, Haunted Mansion. All are being refurbed right now. So with the park closing, does that mean they can work on them more? Or will they still not have, or would they still not have the manpower to do it because people have to go home?
Hell, this would be a great time, even if you were just not even just thinking of that, but hey, we should go and touch up some paint in some different areas that people have chipped away. Is you can say we can paint this and let it dry for a couple of weeks, the little maintenance things that need to be done throughout the year that you don't think about. I would hope that these people still could be working because it's not really affecting anything. Assuming that they're healthy. Of course, you don't want somebody spreading anything all over the place.
Yeah,
I have seen video of Tokyo, them working on the Beauty and the Beast area when people were still, I want to say, in the Miracosta, and they could see into the park. They could see crew people out there working on some of the refurb and on some of the new builds. So that is still going on. There's still maintenance people. There was a video up today. They were changing out all the flags for the next themed event in Tokyo Disney Sea because while the park is closed, the current one is ending. So they're still working. They are still doing those things.
It from a building point of view, a maintenance point of view, a refurb point of view, it's almost, if you've got the staff for it and if you're willing to keep them working, it's almost a blessing in disguise because you can just get so much done.
Well, yeah. And let's talk about Tokyo for just another second because this is kind of an interesting situation over there. Is that they have the Olympics in July, and they have to get a lot of things ready for the Olympics because when you have the Olympics in your city and you have the what's voted the best Disney park in the entire world, you want to make it look keep it impressive. And then on the other interesting side is their version of Fantasmic at Disney Sea. It was supposed to have its final performance later this month. Well, they're not pushing that back. So the show is now over. The final version of Fantasmic has now officially ended. They have not said what's replacing it, but I'm sure something is because you want to have a good night show for when the Olympic crowd is in. But it's just they're at this point where over in Japan, they like to do big send-offs for their shows. Because people see them every night. It's like when Wishes had its final show or the Electrical Parade left for the 47th time. People show up and they buy the merch and they didn't get that bump. And for me, Brittany and I, as well as my mom and my little brother, we have a trip planned to Japan in the middle of June. And this morning, I actually bought, there were only a few trip insurances left that insured against the coronavirus because we have so much money invested in this just in case something is kicked off. I do believe wholeheartedly that it will be fine over there at that point. And I encourage everybody that if you have the capital and everything is given the all clear, travel to these countries that are hit harder because they're going to want that extra tourism money. That's a big thing for people. And you're going to get welcomed really well. It's like when I went to Hong Kong during the protests and we got treated like royalty over there because there was nobody visiting it.
They were just so happy that people were still willing to come see them despite the protests. So I think the parks did the right thing in closing before this became a serious event, before there was that news article about coronavirus. Everyone who went on this small world on this day between 11 and noon needs to get tested or what have you. That ounce of prevention is worth the pound of cure. If we close everything now, it stinks if you had a vacation, but if we kibosh some of this collateral damage now rather than later,
for sure,
hopefully we've done our part, and then just love on these places when you can because they're going to need it. I mean, all the parks are going to lose money from this. I forget how many millions Disney lost the 2 days they had to close a couple of years ago for the hurricane. They lost like several $1 million just being closed for not even 48 hours. So, I mean, the financial hit for even Disney, Universal, it hasn't been formally announced yet, but I'm assuming Legoland here, SeaWorld, Busch Gardens are all about to shutter for the same amount of time.
I was going to ask James, have you heard anything about Knott's?
I haven't actually, but it's safe to assume that Knott's is like, we're sticking through it. We've been here since the beginning. We're not going down.
They close when it rains. Okay, like
What'd you say? They close for what?
I said they close when it rains.
Yeah,
they shutter up when it rains.
Yeah, they legitimately. Yeah, they like it's raining. Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna go home now.
I'm sure Six Flags is going to shut down too over there.
Oh yeah.
Actually, probably all across the country. There's a ton of Six Flags.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to bring it back to the maintenance thing that Roxy was talking about at Disneyland, particularly. I think that this will expedite the new things that are being built. I think they're really going to take advantage of it because it seems like they have these deadlines that are set by the people that are not building the attractions. And so they seem to always be like racing against the clock, like every time, and I feel like, I don't know. No one knows what's happening in Haunted Mansion, but I feel like that's going to be expedited. I'm not sure if this will expedite Avengers Campus or not, but I'm sure it will help to be able to bring stuff in and out with, during the day.
Even if you keep the same staff level on, you at least don't have to worry about like what time you can walk through and all that kind of stuff.
My guess about Avengers Campus is because yesterday they announced that they announced the opening day of Avengers Campus, but that's only the opening of Phase 1. Mm-hmm. Phase 2 won't even come along for at least another year or so. But my guess is if they decide that they can take advantage of this, that they might try to push a few other things through because there's time to get the work done.
Maybe.
But I don't know, like, there's a difference there between construction and, like, set decorating. Like, Haunted Mansion and stuff, a lot of this is probably just going to be, you don't need to bring in cranes and tractors and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not going to be able to have the Quinjet opening day, but it's very, very likely that they may be able to open a few things that they didn't think they were going to be able to open on time because the bigger stuff had to get done. It's possible some of those smaller things could go in, just set decorating and stuff.
See, I've been viewing this a little more negatively, actually, thinking that when these parks come back open, we may see a bigger reduction in characters and entertainment and stuff like that, just because they took such a hit. We may see less staff, and just because it's like, Disney, of course, has endless pockets, but you still ultimately have to have money coming in to keep it going out. And I'm worried that they're going to say, well, because we got hit by, let's just say it's only 2 weeks. I know 2 weeks is a long time, but let's just say only 2 weeks. I don't know if we're going to see as much streetmosphere and things like that on there. I think we may see a slowdown.
I'm going to think the opposite, not so much on the spending side, but for Disneyland being the locals park, whenever it opens up again, the demand for attendance is going to be so high. I mean, Walt Disney World takes more time for people to go, but I feel like the parks are going to be the busiest they've ever been after this kind of closure.
Here for sure. There, maybe not.
Yeah.
Because like you said, Florida is all about tourists. These are
I'm
big
actually going to
trips.
take a standpoint in the middle. Based on what Disneyland Paris has been doing the past couple weeks, what Tokyo was doing before their closure, in terms of streetmosphere and characters, I'm going to say you are going to see a reduction in base characters, base actors, just as a preventative measure, even once the parks are open again. Tokyo Disney was doing for a while where they were still bringing out characters, but they didn't have the meet and greets with the princesses. Alice wasn't coming out. No Mad Hatter. You were cutting down ones that could spread more virus than someone in a face mask. So I'm going to say that they are going to cut back preventatively for a while after they reopen, but I think you're still going to have a draw. Maybe the parks will bring out some unusual characters who are in face masks instead. I know Disneyland has this Roger Rabbit, apparently, that we will never see in Florida. Have him out a little bit more in Toontown, something like that. Things to draw people in while still being pretty safe.
But it also depends on the severity of, honestly, what the situation is, because if this winds up being like way worse than anybody thought it would be, the reopening day of Disney could be like, some people are like, you know what, I'm going to give it a little more time.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But I do think
that's the Galaxy's Edge effect, where everyone's coming, so I won't go. So the first few weeks of Galaxy's Edge, the park was a ghost town.
But as of this recording, tomorrow is the last day that Disneyland is open before the shutdown. I think tomorrow is going to be insane there because everybody's going to go, crap, I got to get my fix.
The amount of people on my timeline today that are talking about going to Disney tomorrow is unnerving. I get it. We're Disney fans and we love Disney. I've literally gotten text messages from friends in other parts of the country today. I got a text message that said, I just heard about Disneyland. Are you going to be okay? from a friend in Washington, okay? It was hilarious. But and so I get it. It's Disney. It's our home. We love it. But they're closing for a reason. Stay home, you guys.
Yeah, they're just. I think the only reason that they gave it 2 days instead of one was they announced this in the middle of the day, and there could have been people buying tickets for the next day or just giving him a heads up, for day guests. That was not for annual pass holders. Just squeeze in one more day.
Right.
But I'll say things like this, like Hong Kong and Shanghai are, and Paris as well, tend to be the least traveled of all the Disney parks. I think when they reopen, they are going to get hit way harder than we do over here because they rely so much on international travel. And I think that there's going to be a stigma against going to Europe, against going to Hong Kong, against going to to China. As I've said, we're going to Japan, and I've had a lot of people go, "Are you guys sure you want to go there?" I said, "As long as it's safe, I'm totally down." But I think that these places are going to be even bigger ghost towns than they were when we went beforehand. Honestly, so I think
so. I feel like Disney fans, annual pass holders, those of us over here that are annual pass holders that aren't going to get to go, people whose vacations are being canceled, well, save your money for the next 2 weeks or a month and then book a trip to Tokyo. Like, go to Paris.
Support them. Support the people that get hit hard and have the stigma. I'm a huge believer in that.
Yeah, Disneyland will be okay. The annual pass holders will keep Disneyland alive. They will have no issues.
Well, for $1,200 a year, they better.
Right? But, like, man, if you have a vacation planned and it just got canceled and you get your money back, spend it overseas. Go over there once it's safe and help them.
Right. You're going to see a lot of discounted plane flights when things reopen. You're going to see discounted hotels and attraction sales. You might find your money goes a longer way when you start to think a little creatively.
And as Roxy was saying, when people say, "Oh, I'm going to go to another country and help them out," when you picture that, you picture people like digging wells and building houses. People don't think about, like, just you being there and putting your money into their economy really does wonders for them. And, like, especially in the social media world that we're in right now, putting your photos up and sharing it and saying, look at how awesome these places are, that does a lot for the world. And for
once upon a time it was a joke, but now I'm totally serious. Okay, shopping is my thing, and the world is going to need me when this is all over.
Oh, God.
Okay. I am going to single-handedly re-help the economy when it gets back up and going.
Oh, boy.
Sephora and Ulta have been saved.
Right. Seriously, I'm going to go to Paris. Like, I have for a while, so why not? It's the perfect time.
Yeah.
Well,
and they'll...
Go ahead. I cut you off. That was so rude of me. What were you saying?
Who?
Roxy? Did I cut you off?
Oh. No.
Oh, I thought I did. All right. Anyways. Never mind.
My thought is people are going to be so hypersensitive and everything is going to be so sterilized, so cleaned, so bleached. They're closing cruise ships. These things are going to be so hyper cleaned. Go on those ships when they open. You'll never see them in better shape.
Right?
I mean, I think that's the world we're going to be living in after this, right? I mean, which is not a bad thing for sure, huh? If a silver lining.
You own like Purell.
Right.
Yeah, I just sold Purell last week.
James, you shouldn't have done that.
I know. I was like, oh, they like sell now. I'm like, all right. And then, anyways, I want to talk a little bit about, we kind of got into a little bit talking about what can be done when the parks are closed, but kind of the history of particularly Disneyland closing. Because I just think, just culturally, that leaves such an impact. Obviously, it does it for all the parks, but I don't know. There's just something about you just kind of think Disneyland's always going to be there waiting for you no matter what's happening. And some people think Disneyland used to be open all the time, but when in the first 30 years of the park, that was not the case, actually.
No.
I actually dug up the actual stats. It said the off-season. I don't know what that is particularly, but we'll just say, there's no off-season now, but let's just say, I don't know, like fall?
No, the off-season used to be starting the week after it was starting January 6th, and it went until, I believe, April.
That used to be okay. Off. Oh, so not fall at all, but just after Christmas, before spring break.
Yep.
Okay. So during the off-season, from 1955 to 1957, the park was closed on Mondays. And from 1958 to 1985, the park was closed on Mondays and Tuesdays during the off-season. That's 30 years of the park being closed 2 days a week. And the significance of that really is that's why we have so many attractions built in the early days of Disneyland because they had the park closed 2 days a week to get the stuff done. So,
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So I think they're really gonna. I think we're gonna see some progress on these things. I hope so too. Other than that, we have 3 other times the park was closed.
Oh, I know, off the top of my head, I know.
All right, please share.
I was so proud of myself this morning when I realized that I knew. Okay, so it was the first time was the day after JFK was shot. The park was closed.
Nation was in mourning.
And then after 9/11, after all that happened, they closed.
Wasn't it on 9/11? It was.
Well, yeah.
It was on. That was on the same. I was on 9/11. They closed.
After the events of 9/11.
Yes.
Keep it that way. And then the third time was in 1997 for the Northridge earthquake.
1994.
Damn it.
Well, we did have it closed over here in Florida for a couple days because of the hurricane.
Was that the first time?
I actually pulled up. Disney World has had to close a few times because of hurricanes. Mm-hmm. Welcome to Florida.
I was there once, and it was crazy.
Yeah. September 99 for Hurricane Floyd.
Oh, that was mine.
Good old 2004. I can remember Charlie, Francis, and Jeannie. All 3 hurricanes, 1 month apart, had to close the park. Hurricane Matthew in 16, Irma in 17, and following September 11th.
Wait! What was the one when I was making Foolish Mortals? Wait, I can't remember what year was that. Oh, that was
we
16,
got married,
right?
Bernie and I got married in 2016.
Oh yeah, no.
I think you were here for like Hurricane Matthew.
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah,
that was the one.
So yeah, while we were there, the parks did. Yeah, I guess I was there for that one because the parks did close, and we only had to be in the hotel for 24 hours. It wasn't as bad as other people had it in the past, but kind of nuts. I mean, this situation is so unprecedented. Every time I think about it, it just kind of freaks me out, man. I'm just like it's a real meter or way to look at the state of where we're at here, where the thing that you think would always be there for you, no matter what, is shutting down, which I think we could safely say, indefinitely. Like, we have no idea when the parks are going to open again. Like,
it also makes you like really understand. There are so many people out there who, because they are young and healthy and who are not taking this whole thing seriously. But if you look at the other reasons why the parks have shut down, it really does help you understand the severity of this situation. 9/11. That was a huge, issue for the country and safety and like it's a safety concern. The hurricanes, it's a safety concern, and this is the same thing. They're not closing it because they want to. It is that big of a safety concern.
I would
argue that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say really quick. I would argue that the day after Kennedy got shot was probably the least required of a
100%.
It's not like that guy was coming over, to exact revenge on different places as well.
That was a different time. So, that may as well have been a different planet than the one we live on today.
Right. Yeah. Then they used to do the National Day of Mourning where you closed.
Yeah.
Everything like that. Schools were closed. Music parks were closed. Everything was closed. Nowadays, you don't get that.
I was like, oddly enough, they didn't close the park when Walt Disney died.
No.
And that was pretty close in time, right? When JFK was assassinated.
Yeah, it was such a different world then. I don't feel like that one even compares to the others. But any other time that the parks have been closed, it is because of a safety issue.
And I mean, back to Northridge '94. That was the biggest earthquake in Southern California since I've been alive. I was living here at the time, And I assume that was it was unsafe to be inside of Disneyland because there was so much structural damage all over Southern California that I don't. It'd be interesting to know what, take a deep dive on that topic. What kind of damage was done at the parks during that time? But yeah, so they just probably just were like, I don't know. But that was just one day, though, right? It was just closed for one day, the day of the earthquake. Right?
I think so, yeah.
It wasn't longer.
I'm looking at it right now.
So maybe there wasn't any structural damage. Maybe they just closed because everyone else was dealing with so much destruction and chaos.
Probably needed to close to make sure everything was structurally okay and that they didn't have any problems. And it's easier to safety check a theme park without 50,000 people inside.
Yeah. No, right. I understand why they closed for the day. I'm just wondering. I figured that they would be closed longer if they had damage from the earthquake.
Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is a little extra wild today, everybody.
In researching, it says Disneyland, Knott's, and Six Flags were shut down after the quake, but only for inspection purposes, since all are designed with earthquake preventions in mind.
Oh.
So apparently everything is built to earthquake standards, whatever that might be.
It makes sense, though, if you're building something in Southern California to keep it safe. Well, I could be like saying, they go and build like a house made out of sticks and put it in the middle of Florida. That's the big practical pig is the only one who would live in Florida, because that house of straw and sticks are definitely going to get blown by the big bad wolf that is a hurricane.
Well,
fun fact: we actually have a tree. We have a palm tree on our roof from Irma. So we know a little bit about storms.
There's a tree just hanging out on your roof, unattached from the ground, is what you're saying?
It's growing up, though. It's a palm tree, so they kind of like start heading toward the sun. So, it's attached to the ground, but it's not. It's no longer on the roof. It's now reaching for the sky.
It fell on the roof during Irma, and then started to grow upward again.
Oh, okay.
So it's on our roof.
That's like all the trees in Seuss Landing at Universal are hurricane damaged trees.
Oh.
There's a little trivia there for you. So I guess to kind of round this up here, I mean, what's up?
Okay, I'm going to bring this up. The other really weird, the crazy thing with this is that over here, this is kind of a new one. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway opened up like a week ago.
Right.
And now it's being shut down indefinitely. Over in California, at your Universal Studios, you were supposed to have Secret Life of Pets opening up.
Yeah.
And that's been delayed indefinitely. Now, I know that Beauty and the Beast in Tokyo, that was supposed to open on April 15th, and now they're saying that it's going to open up in May once the theme park has been open for a couple of weeks, just so they can learn how to theme park again. Well, but also, you want your opening day to not be for like a bunch, because Tokyo, they're doing a Beauty and the Beast ride, a new stage show, and a Baymax Big Hero 6 spinners, kind of like Mater's Junkyard Jamboree. Mm-hmm. You don't want all of that on the same day that you're reopening a park, because that's bad press. That's not fun press.
Yeah.
But this is so unusual to see a giant new ride like Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway open up and basically be only open for a week before, now it's closed for 2 weeks. It's going to be closed longer than it was open.
Right?
What's interesting about that is that whenever new attractions come online, there's always issues, especially groundbreaking ones, where they're down for big portions of the day and all this kind of stuff. We've been seeing a lot of that in the past year or so.
For Rise the Resistance.
Yeah, with the prime example, and the other one being Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure was plagued with so many problems. I don't know if it still is, but for most of its opening time,
it is.
Yeah, still going almost a year later. So it's like now they actually have time to go in there and like maybe fix what wasn't working once they actually had actual people, on the attraction.
Yeah,
I don't think that's ever really happened before.
Well, and Mickey and Minnie, that thing is running like a champ. Like, that thing is eating people like no tomorrow, which I'm not going to go into any spoilers because that's not what this podcast is, but it's essentially the same ride as Rise of the Resistance.
Oh, really?
As far as like the way it moves, there's no elevation changes, but it does a lot of the same type of movements and the same trackless system. Down to even some of the effects are just changed, but they're the same effects, but like with a Mickey standpoint. So it's kind of weird to see basically the same ride being built on the other side of the park, but it has no issues.
I will say we were there on the first day it was open, and there was a group who had one of those VIP tour guides ahead of us in line, and one person in that party asked how many times the ride how Mickey and Minnie had broken down since it opened, and the guy said 0.
Wow!
So in 3 days they had 0 shut down.
Yeah, it is totally a unprecedented thing that a brand new ride would be closed for longer than it was actually open for. Yeah. But also, in all of the times in the past that Disneyland's been closed, it's never been closed for this long. I mean, I think 2 days is the longest, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
That a Disney,
And I think the same for World. For the hurricanes, it's basically until the storm has passed.
No, I mean, for World, Disney's never been closed for longer than a day.
No,
our Disneyland.
Tokyo, I believe, closed in 2009 for 4 or 5 days because of a really bad earthquake. Or no, they closed
for a long time.
They were closed for like a month or
I remember
that over there.
Yeah, I just remember that recently. That was in the Imagineering story.
And it was the same time of the year as well as what's going on now. It was, I believe, March of 2009 or whatever year it was.
In 2011, it had to close for 10 days, and then they had a 5-week closure.
Yeah.
Wow.
What is that noise?
In 2011, due to an earthquake and tsunami, they had.
I think someone's trying to hack our recording. There's hackers trying to get it. There's like a weird transmission coming
noise.
in.
They're trying to shut us down with Corey Feldman.
It's Bob Chapek.
He's like, the first thing we're going to do is get rid of all these podcasters leeching out of our wallets. This is a new Disney company. It's called Products and Theme Parks. Theme parks are products. They're not art.
All right. Well,
Hong Kong and Shanghai, though, have been closed for like 9 weeks now. Like, this is so, like, we are in, like, unprecedented territory. And I really hope that this is a podcast that a year from now people can go back and listen to and go, oh, look, the parks actually reopened like a week later and everything was fine. I like to be optimistic, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, this is what's going to happen a year later is that it's going to be like this dystopian future. Disneyland was taken over by looters and rioters and people and people won't, they won't. They live there now. They train the feral cats to go get food.
James.
It's going to look like the Pleasure Island part of the Pinocchio during Journey ride.
I told you not to tell anyone my plan.
Oh shoot! Sorry.
Oh, you are a bad friend.
I'm just so excited about it.
Come on, man.
I was telling Brittany earlier today, I said, I wonder what, wouldn't it be funny if like all the fireworks and all the production shows were just on a timer situation? So like all these fireworks shows were going off with nobody.
That is going to be so weird.
You know what? Yeah, it was just
not going to happen.
No. Well, you brought up something really interesting to us locals. So every night at 9:30, we hear the fireworks. It's like
it's literally when Skylar gets in the shower. It's when we know to start cleaning up. It's like we don't have to set our clocks because at 9:30 we have the fireworks.
It's totally like the old callers in London. Like, it's 10 o'clock and all is well. That's what the fireworks are at Disneyland.
Yeah, that's gonna be so weird.
Well, there was a video that was placed of Disney Sea, like the day after they shut down, because they were on a timer for when all the music comes on and all the lights and all the the water effects go on. They didn't turn that off. You can find it online. So somebody took a video from the top of the hotel where you just hear all the music blasting and the fountains are going, and there's nobody there.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, obviously, this is just the beginning of a long story, but I just wanted to get our initial thoughts on this breaking news. Really crazy stuff. So we'll continue talking about this as it develops, but there's plenty of other things for us to discuss on the podcast and videos and stuff like that. We're not going to be in a shortage of material whatsoever. So as a listener, don't worry about that. But yeah, let's hope everybody stays safe and that we get a handle on this and we can kind of go back to our normal lives as soon as we can.
And everyone just try to remember, stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, and be considerate of others. Just because the problem doesn't affect you doesn't mean it doesn't affect the people around you.
If you feel sick, stay home. Send someone else to the grocery store. Send someone else to get your medication. You're coughing, short of breath, with fever, don't run into the ER. Call your primary care physician for advice first.
And everybody, I recommend for some good Disney juju to get things back on track when you're washing your hands, recite the Haunted Mansion stretching room spiel. And when you're all done saying the spiel, you're done washing your hands. But don't say it so loudly because nobody likes a show off.
I actually told James the other day that the Nick Fury Avengers Initiative speech from the first Avengers movie, if you say it exactly as he does, is 25 seconds long.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're going to wrap this one up. So stay safe, everybody. All right. Hey there, gang. Just want to do a little update. That's a little bit after the time of our recording. The current date and time is it's Saturday, March 14th, 2:30 Disneyland time. And since the recording, Disneyland and Walt Disney World have released information about annual pass holders. Obviously, listening to the podcast is not going to give you the most up-to-date or up-to-the-second information because the information is changing so fast and all the time. But so if you want to make sure to get the absolute latest information, follow our social media or just social media in general, obviously get you that information. But just for those listening, just to conclude what we were not sure of during the recording, this kind of spells it out here. This is an email that I was sent as a Disneyland pass holder. I saw similar information on the Walt Disney World website, so I'm just going to share a little bit of this. So I'm not going to read the entire email. There's obviously the beginning of this talks about the closure in general, but this is particularly relating to the annual pass payment questions we had. It says, given the necessary closure, all annual pass holders who have passports that are valid during the closure period will have their passport expiration date extended on pass type and level access due to the impact of the closure. The extended date will be reflected on your passport account prior to our reopening of the parks. Annual pass holders on the monthly payment program will remain on the current payment schedule and continue to make their scheduled payments. These annual pass holders will have their passport expiration date extended on pass type and level access due to the impact of the closure and will not be required to make any payments during that extended period. So to be clear, the extended period being the extra dates that get added to your annual pass post the date it was supposed to expire. So I think that's probably the best solution. Just keep payments as possible on the regular schedule, since we don't know exactly when the park's going to reopen. Right now, they're scheduled to reopen on April 1st, but that could change. So we're going to wait and see. But I think for now, we can say that any concerns about any annual pass holders, Disneyland or Walt Disney World, that have monthly payment plans, that you're going to continue paying as normal, And however long the parks are closed, that's how much longer your pass will be valid before needing to be renewed. I don't know what the status is for the Universal parks on that, but I'd imagine it would be something very similar. So the last thing I want to say is, we just obviously this is very serious. It's affecting the entire world, and we take it very seriously as individuals, but also, as a company, the entire Creepy Kingdom company here. We all work individually for the most part, and the only time we're together is at events, so that doesn't really affect our work. And I also realize there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be looking for escapes from reality throughout this time and need more entertainment and content. So we're committed to continuing on during this time and producing content, hopefully a little more than usual. The podcast, videos, written content, and of course just random stuff on our social media accounts. So yeah, we're here. We're going to keep going, and hopefully, this will, be contained, and we can go back to our regular lives as soon as possible. But for now, I just want everyone to be safe and take care of those in your life that getting this virus could really affect on a life or death level. And if you don't feel good, stay home, and we'll keep you entertained.
This podcast has been a production of the Creepy Kingdom Podcast Network. Executive produced by James H. Carter II and Ryan Grulick. Visit creepykingdom.com to get access to all of our articles, videos, and podcasts. Join our Patreon for exclusive content. Patreon.com/creepykingdom. Until next time, this is Hannah reminding you to keep it creepy.